So hopefully everybody can see the slides, hear me, and see me. So yes, I'm going to take you through a bit about the Casualty Actuarial Society. I'm going to talk a little bit more about what opportunities there are for property, casualty, or general insurance actuaries, a bit more about the CAS, and also the path to obtaining CAS credentials. And I'm also going to talk a little bit more about the CAS Student Central, which is a resource that we have at the CAS for students like yourselves. And then at the end, I'm also going to touch on career transitions. And I'm going to focus more on the transition from university to the workforce. So this is me, today's presenter. So I'm on the CAS Board of Directors. I work for African Re. I'm based in Lagos, Nigeria. But as the theme that we've heard from the other presenters as well is that you can work all over the world. I've worked all over the world, the US, the UK, on tons of business, and it's easy to move around when you have a actuarial fellowship credential. I'm also a fellow of the FIA, which I attained by mutual recognition at the time, although now they do individual recognition, which once you have a fellowship in one, you can get the other one. I mean, I had to do an exam and have some other requirements as well, work and live in the UK, and a few things to get my FIA on top of my FCAS. Okay, so let me just touch a bit on the property and casualty world. So for you guys, I think you probably know it more as general insurance or non-life insurance, but it's really made up mostly of two parts, right? So property, which deals with possessions and people's possessions and things that you can touch and feel. So for example, car insurance, it's insuring the actual car. If you live in a home and maybe you have renter's insurance, it'll be insuring your actual property. Coverage for buildings, for things like earthquakes and things like that. And then we've got what we call casualty or liability insurance, which is actually covering the policyholder's legal obligations resulting from a loss to other people. So if you have the car, for example, and you hit someone else, it'll be covering the other people. It'll be covering damage to other property. It'll be covering things like medical expenses for the people in the other car. We've got other examples like professional liability. I know somebody had asked a question about whether actuaries can work in the medical field. I've personally worked with medical malpractice in the US where, I mean, we're not working in the medical field, but what we're doing is helping to estimate the losses that might come from a doctor making mistakes or being sued for something. So there's a lot of things that you can do on the property and casualty or non-life side. And also, I just wanted to touch on a few business sectors as well, just to give you a bit of a flavor of, how exciting it can be. I think it's exciting. This is what I work in, of course. So there's so many areas that you can work in with general insurance. I mean, I always tell people it's anything that is. So there's a lot of personal. So you get a lot of actuaries that, particularly in more developed markets, that might just work in personal insurance, which deals with individuals like myself or yourself having individual policies. And then there are lots that work in commercial insurance, which is business to business. So most of my career has been in commercial insurance. And I've done all sorts of things. And as a property casualty, actually, you can do all sorts of stuff. So construction of buildings. So buildings, when buildings are being constructed, you need insurance at various states. And actually, the exposure changes at various states of the construction timeline. Marine insurance, for example, we insure, and this is how Lloyd's started in the UK. We insure lots of boats, ships going around the world. I also worked at one point, one of my clients was a cruise line. So we had to estimate their liability for the passengers on the cruise ship. We had to estimate the workers' compensation for the employees on the cruise ship. You'd be surprised how many thousands of employees are on each of these individual cruise ships, the really massive ones. And also damage to the cruise ships. So, there's lots of different things that you can do in that area. Other very interesting lines of business I've worked on as well. So kidnap and ransom, that's an insurance that needs, people actually get insurance for to kidnap and ransom. Companies might get it if they're sending the employees to high-risk areas and things like that. And even like sportsman insurance. So I've worked with like sports teams, insuring their players. So, like with baseball contracts in the US, they usually sign a contract for a certain number of years at the beginning of the when they're signed onto a team. And if that person gets injured, if something happens, that contract is set in stone and they still get paid. So, there's insurance for that. There's insurance for football players as well. A lot of the football teams in the Premier League, they've got insurance for their players. We've had insurance for singers, things like that, entertainment, event cancellation. COVID was a big thing with event cancellations. All these event cancellation policies just suddenly got triggered. There's loads of other things. Like the other one that I really like is energy. So we work a lot in the energy sector with oil rigs, with power plants, nuclear power plants. And the thing about those is they're so huge, they cost so much money. When they just sneeze, it's a huge loss. But it's really important that the risk gets diversified. And I remember just an example. While I was taking my exams in the UK, my flatmate was actually an actuary as well, a life actuary. And I remember we were watching the news, and this was in 2011 when there was an earthquake and a tsunami in Japan. So the earthquake happened, then the tsunami comes along, and then it's hitting these nuclear reactors. And my flatmate was like, oh my gosh, all the P&C insurance companies are just gonna collapse. This is huge. You wouldn't have thought about this. And I was like, no, that's exactly what we're there for. We project secondary perils. We would have thought of an earthquake and a tsunami afterwards, because that's exactly what happens. And you also try to spread the risk. So you try to make sure that the risk goes to many different companies, insurance companies, and then also reinsurance companies. And there's also retrocession at the top. So there's a lot that goes on in this field. I find it very, very exciting, and I hope it inspires some of you to also move into the property casualty field or the general insurance field. And as many people I think a few people have also alluded to before, there are lots of different things that you can do within the various fields. Pricing, reserving, predictive modeling is becoming really big, as well as data science. Reinsurance, I currently work for a reinsurance company. I've done consulting as well before, capital projections, planning. That's another thing I've done in my career as well, helping the insurance companies plan for the next year. And there's lots of things. Risk management, that's what I'm doing right now. There's lots of things, and you can actually transition through the various elements, because the exams do help prepare for all of this. And then I've touched on some of this a little bit, but yeah, there are lots of trends that affect general insurance practice. And this is one of the things that I find really interesting, because your study, it doesn't just end with you studying and getting your credential. You have to keep up with what's going on. Climate change is a big thing. I know in Kenya, people are very much aware of it. It can affect the business, and the business is constantly changing. I mean, if you do agriculture insurance, which we do, obviously things like droughts and floods are big, and if climate change is impacting that's something that we have to be factoring into our models. Emerging risks, terrorism. Obviously, there've been some big losses historically due to terrorism, particularly in the US. Everybody knows about 9/11. But within other countries, post-COVID, there's been a lot of increased unsettled, what's the word I'm looking for? Like communities are not settled, and there's a lot more riots, there's a lot more things like that happening, and those actually lead to losses. I mean, there were huge riots in South Africa last year, led to huge losses. So all of this, you have to be keeping up with that. Drones, another very interesting one. Companies have started examining claims using drones. So, you have a car accident, they don't send a claims adjuster, they just send a drone, take pictures, done. I know that's being used in the US. I know in South Africa, they've also started using things like that. So there's lots of interesting things that's going on in the general insurance field. And that's one of the things I really love about it, because you have to keep up with what's going on everywhere, which I love. So many paths to success as well. And people have talked about it. You've heard from the various actuaries around the different things that they've done. And you can also choose sort of where you want to fit in. I mean, I know within actuarial markets, you might not have as much of a choice because people just say you're an actuary, you're going to do everything. But you can, if you go, you can go to you can work in a regulator, you can work in insurance, you can work in banking. That's a very interesting one as well, consulting, and then, eventually move into management. I know this says you're people oriented, you have to be management. I don't think I'm people oriented, but I had to learn. So, there are various things that you can do as an actuary. So I'm just going to touch a little bit about the Casualty Actuarial Society as well. So the CAS is the world's only actuarial organization that focuses exclusively on property insurance or general insurance, property and casualty insurance or general insurance. And we've been around for more than 100 years. We have over 10,000 members worldwide, and it's growing. And for us, it's similar to the SOA. When we say members, we mean fellows and associates of the CAS. And similarly, we don't require membership as a person taking exams. You can just take the exams, and then you only have to now become a member when you become an associate. And yeah, we're a vibrant community, we're growing with deep, extensive resources and networks for candidates, for employers, for academics, for members as well. And the CAS it's a really great source for general insurance continuing education content. So we do have a lot of people, because we focus on this, this is what we know how to do. So we do have a lot of people from other organizations coming to the CAS for continuing professional education, even if they have qualified through another body. And just to give you a flavor of where our members are, so only half of our members work in insurance. I know people think that it's only insurance, but it's not. Half of our members work in insurance. Lots of consultants, reinsurance, service organizations. We've growing number of members in other fields. I mean, and that's the great thing, about the profession. I think you can just work anywhere. The current head of data and the head of the analytical team at Uber is a fellow of the CAS. He's actually our president-elect. And we have people all over the place. A lot of these car ride companies hire actuaries. Places like Expedia, Waka Now. I don't know if you use Waka Now in Kenya, but the relevant search engines and things like that, they use actuaries. And one example that that always sticks to me as well is we had a conference at Disneyland, and the people, the management were talking about how they loved having actuaries because they actually wanted to hire actuaries to help project where the crowds were going to be, so that they can know where to send Mickey Mouse or Minnie Mouse to move the crowds away from those really crowded areas, to sort of moderate the crowding, which is great. So again, very flexible. You can work everywhere, anywhere. And yes, we're a global society. So much like the SOA, most of our membership is in the United States and Canada. And then internationally, we are growing, particularly in Asia and Africa as well. And similar to the SOA as well, our membership from the candidates is more they're more international people taking exams than historically in our membership. Okay, so the path to obtain CAS credentials. So this slide kind of takes you through the educational journey. I think somebody mentioned about how it is a journey, and it's one that it does take determination. So the way we split our exams, we have what we refer to as preliminary exams, and then the ACAS exams and the FCAS exams. So because the CAS really, we're kind of specialist. So we do not focus as much on the preliminary exams. People can take exams from any actuarial body and then come back to the CAS and now join us to take the higher exams so that we can focus more on general insurance, because the foundation, I think, for all actuarial disciplines is similar. We've got the probability, financial mathematics, which are exactly the same as the SOA, and the validation by educational experience as well. And we actually don't even offer those exams ourselves. So we're okay with people taking any. You can take the IHO exams, you can take the SOA exams, and then come back to us, and we will accept that. And then we've got what we refer to as the DISC courses, which are data and insurance series courses. We have courses relating to data analytics, risk management, and insurance accounting, regulation, etc. So those are online courses, and that's generally what students tend to do while they're in university. Budget permitting, right? So obviously there's a cost to some of this, and as one speaker mentioned before, it might be harder to take some of these as a student if you can't afford them. But we do actually offer an 80% discount for most African countries. We checked all the East African countries are there, and I think I've noticed that there's some people from elsewhere. So most African countries do get that discount. For the associateship exams, we've got what we call modern actuarial statistics. So there are 2 exams, 1 and 2. And up to this level, the exams are multiple choice. But then as we move on, those now become written exams. So we've got our exam 5, and you don't have to take these exams in this order, by the way, even though we have the names and orders in order. But we have exam 5, which is basic rate making and reserving. We've got exam 6, which focuses on regulation and financial reporting. And then we also have a course on professionalism, similar to the SOA. Again, we can't emphasize enough how much the actual profession values professionalism. We want our members to be upstanding. So this is why we all have this course on professionalism. And I think everybody has a requirement to fulfill some professionalism credits every year as well, to remind our members about these important concepts. And then we have our FCAS exams. So there are 3 exams. Basically, it's like an advanced pricing exam, an advanced reserving exam, and then an advanced reserving and risk management exam, and then an exam on financial risk and rate of return. So that's what you do to complete your actuarial journey. We, similar to the others, we do make changes, and we try to focus on preparing actuaries for the future. So because by the time you finish your exams, the world would have changed. So it's not what you study today. By the time you're ready to work on that, it's probably going to have changed. So we try to think about what's going to happen and try to change the exams for that purpose. We are rejigging our exams a little bit, and we're hoping to have a project on property and casualty predictive analytics that will be part of the exam process going forwards. And as I've mentioned, there is an 80% discount for candidates from East Africa. and most of Africa. So some other resources, we have got a trust scholarship program, which gives some scholarship for students who are pursuing a career in general insurance. We give 8 scholarships a year of about 5,000 to 3,500. One is 5,000, one's 2,500. It is very competitive, as you can imagine, but it is open to people from all over the world. And we have been looking into trying to ensure that the panels that are reviewing the applications are diverse and understand the academic process from outside of the US, so that it's not just focused on people within the US and Canada. But yeah, you can learn more about this on the website. We also have a few other resources which I'll take you to. And then just a comment, which I also alluded to before, that any exams that have been or learning objectives addressed through exams or other ways in other actuarial bodies for the preliminary exams, we've got 3F on there, which is what used to, the discourses have replaced that, but obviously people, historically people are still trying to get credit for that. So any of these exams, we will grant a waiver to candidates to receive credit for that. And then they can move on to take the CAS, the upper level exams. So we've listed some of the associations that we have received credit, given credit waivers for below, which I'm sure you're very familiar with them. Okay, so I wanted to also talk about the CAS Student Central. So, as we don't have, students aren't necessarily members, what we've done is we've created this CAS Student Central specifically for students taking exams, which you can join. It's free, completely free to join. Just go to casstudentcentral.org. And there are many benefits to joining. So you get access to an online community. A few people have mentioned how important that is. You can get access to free practice exams, the membership directory. Obviously, it will tell you about scholarships and opportunities. We have some free webinars that you can get access to, networking events. And then also we give you access to predictive modeling software, which you can use for free. You can apply that to your projects. It can help you to develop a few things that, to help practice your skills, and that can go on your CV as well. And like I said, it's completely free. You just have to have a student email address to join, and you can join that at any time. And what we've also done is we have this CAS Student Central Summer Program. So it's again, free. It's an 8-week online program that focuses on trying to help students gain knowledge about the actuarial profession and general insurance. And we have it in 2 formats. So there's a self-directed one where, do it at your own pace. And then there's a mentor-led one where you actually get mentors for, CAS actuaries as mentors, and they take you through that. And we actually developed this initially during COVID because, people lost their internships, right, because of COVID. But we think it's great because now students from all over the world can use that as well, especially because you might not have access to the internships that maybe people have in more developed societies. So for this year, the program's currently ongoing for 2023. And when we say summer, we mean the Northern Hemisphere summer, so June through August. But right now, 15% of our mentor-led participants are from Africa, and 13% of the self-directed ones are from Africa. And we have participation from 6 African countries, including Kenya. So we think that's great. So registrations for 2024, it does say April here, but it might be a bit earlier. So just start checking from about March, and you should be able to register for the 2024 program for next year. And then this is just giving you a flavor of what it might look like and the different resources that you have access to. And then there's some additional resources. There's the CAS website, there's the Be an Actuary website, which hopefully you guys are familiar with, that gives some information about how to become an actuary. American Academy of Actuaries is written here. It has a lot of information about professionalism and things like that. And then we've also put the International Association of Black Actuaries here. There are some resources on there for students to help with exams and the exam, the tutorials and things like that as well. So I'm just going to end there with the CAS Student Central. But what I wanted to also mention is we have actually recently launched a what we're calling an international university recognition program. I've sent a flyer to the administrators, so hopefully they will get that to you. So where the CAS is now going to partner with universities to teach students about general insurance and prepare the students in universities for general insurance careers. And there are lots of benefits. It ties to the CAS Student Central, also ties through to what we have as the CAS Academic Central, which gives resources for your professors. And also we give resources to help people prepare for things like our pricing exam and things like that. So do check it out. It's brand new, literally launched this week. So you'll get the flyer and you can get more information about that. And finally, I just wanted to touch about managing career transitions. So I'm just going to stop sharing while I do that. Okay, excellent. So I'm just going to touch, because, we're out of time. So I'm just going to touch very briefly on just the transition from university to the job, right? So, and I've heard Moses tell me this before, like when, a new job is posted in Kenya, and the same thing for us here in Africa, we get hundreds and hundreds of applicants, like hundreds, if not thousands of applicants. And how do we decide, how do we choose somebody, right? You need to make your CV stand out. And you need to put your best foot forward. So how do you do that? Start preparing. You need to start preparing while you're in university, and do what you can to make yourself stand out. I can tell you for free that passing exams while you're uni already gives you a leg up. That's probably the first thing I'm going to look at. If you've passed exams, you go into my first cutoff. And then if you haven't, because there's so many applicants and there are likely going to be enough people who've passed exams in that group, you might not. I'm not saying this is possible, but it might be harder. And then if you've done an internship or even a shadow, I know internship opportunities might not be as free-flowing, right? So if you've done an internship or even a shadowing opportunity, so if you try to maybe contact some of your alumni and try and see if you can shadow them for a day or two and see what they do, learn a bit more about the industry, about their work. And, I mentioned the CAS Student Central. That's another good resource if you're thinking about general insurance career. And the other things that you can do. So when I was in university, I actually took an internship as a course. I talked to my professors. I managed to get myself, and I found an insurance agent. I was in a little town in Iowa and I found an insurance agent. Okay, so it's possible. And I managed to work out a way, between them that I would study. There's an insurance manual that agents use to get accredited. So I studied that manual during my internship. So I'd go to this office. There were certain days of the week I'd go at certain times of the day. I'd go and I'd sit there and I'd be studying. But then when I could, I'd be shadowing the insurance agent that was there. And I was able to take that as a course. I mean, you might not be able to, but so I was able to take that as a course. I was able to put that as my CV, and it was also also helped me to learn more about insurance and what we're doing and see it in a practical sense. So, there are a few things that you can do there. I've mentioned the predictive analytics software that you can get from CAS Student Central. Do a project. Think about a research project, do something, that can go into your CV as well. And another thing that I did as well when I was in uni, that was when the VEE was coming through. And we didn't have a VEE at the time for time. We didn't have a course for time series at the time for my university. So there happened to be another student who wanted to be an actuarial science, an actuary as well. So we got together, we found the relevant or well, we talked to a professor again, and they helped us find a relevant time series book. And we studied it together. Our professor helped us, drew up some learning plans for us, helped test us on that. And that we were able to get our VEE credit through that. So, you know, there are different things that you can do to try and help prepare yourself. But I think a lot, you know, you need to start planning, you know, start planning now, start building up your CV now. And that should help with the transition. And definitely, if you can pass exams, please do so. Start taking your exams. I mean, we've been given study tips, and definitely I would say put in, like they said, put in the work you can to pass it the first time, because guess what? If you have to pass it again, you have to put in the same amount of work. So just put in as much the required hours and just try and pass that exam first time. You know, it's a balance between life and study. I always say that a lot of actuaries lose out on don't have interpersonal skills because we spent our formative years after uni studying. But you know, that's sort of what you have to do to get there. Obviously, you need a balance, but yeah, put in the work and you'll get there. That's all I have for you. Thank you very much.